Spider-Man No Way Home came out last week and it was incredible. And I can't talk about it without spoilers, so your one and only spoiler warning is right here. Okay, let's start the video. There has been debate going around on what was the best version of Spider-Man in past movies. I believe Tobey Maguire had the better movies and villains, but I don't know, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was always my favorite portrayal of Spider-Man, and Tom Holland was just kind of there. He was more neutral, a good portrayal of both Spider-Man and Peter, but really nothing spectacular. And I always wanted something more from him, especially since I really like Tom Holland as an actor, and I think we all definitely got a great portrayal so far from any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies or any of Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man within the MCU as a whole. Tom Holland was definitely a star here. Yeah, even though there are some actors who might have outshined him at parts, but we'll put a pin on that and talk about that later. Strip away the villains and obviously Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man showing up. Tom Holland's acting has really stepped up in these movies. I feel more connected to him than I ever had. This movie was really the MCU Spider-Man origin movie that we needed. But put a pin on that and I'll explain what I mean by that later on. Now, keep in mind, this movie is not the greatest of all time, obviously, but it's definitely better than the previous two movies, or at least better than Far From Home. But it has its own flaws like many incredible movies do. Although that shouldn't prevent you from watching this movie at all. This is definitely theater worthy, and I will repeat this again. You guys really need to watch this movie in theaters. I felt the same rush and great vibes when I watched Endgame in theaters. And I think this movie needs to be watched more than once even, because there are just some details and references and nods or callbacks to previous films from Tom Holland or from Andrew Garfield or from Tobey Maguire that you just won't understand the first time around, since you're too busy geeking out over all the characters and the cinematography. But I want to take a moment to describe or talk about what were the greatest parts of this movie, at least to me, and then we're going to get into some theories that I have for the next plus future Spider-Man movies. The characters. Up first, we have Peter Parker. Like I said, Tom Holland's Peter was the most engaging in this movie, not only because of the trauma he goes through, but because of the position he was put in and because of the lessons he learned. I think Peter's willingness to help these villains, even against Doctor Strange's wishes, were great. It led to great fight scenes and it led to good character moments. Peter is responsible for them being here, meaning the villains, and even though their deaths might be fated, he can't allow anybody to die without trying to help at least first. Even though trying to help made him suffer a great consequence, which is Aunt May dying. For years, fans have been upset due to the lack of Uncle Ben or even a mention of him in the MCU Spider-Man. But May is the equivalent to Uncle Ben that Tobey, Andrew, or even Peter in the comics had. She has been there every step of the way, and her death has really shaped and impacted Peter. Does he continue helping these villains and send them back cured, or does he let the rage take over? And honestly, technically, he kind of did both, though I found it weird how long Peter and May conversed after her initial attack. I still think her death really worked and it was really meaningful, even if you liked or didn't like her character at all. Her death was a thinking moment for Peter, and it determined his actions for the rest of the film. With the end of the third act, Peter has really grown from someone who always had people in his corner to help him to being completely helpless. What I mean by that is that now that nobody remembers him, he doesn't exist, or at least Peter doesn't exist, Spider-Man does. Peter is on his own. He doesn't have the Avengers, doesn't have access to Tony's tech, no friends or family. This is the lowest point for Peter since he's always being surrounded by other people, but now if future movies do it right, we can explore this new isolation that Tom Holland's Spider-Man could face. I like Peter's decision at the end of the movie because he really understands how much he played in the fabric tier of the multiverse, and coming to terms with that and even choosing to not remind Ned and MJ of his existence at the end of the movie is telling. He doesn't want to put anyone in harm's way, and I can appreciate his decision. I would have a lot more fun watching this version of Spider-Man than I did in the past. So remember when I said to put a pin on the characters who might have outshined Peter in this movie? Well, let's unpin it and talk about them right now. First up, we have Goblin. Willem Defoe was one of the best people to watch in this movie's hands down. The love and fun Defoe had with playing this character again is really telling. You can see the split of Goblin and Norman perfectly, not only through the voice changes, but through his facial expressions. As someone who has been studying acting since I was 10, I was definitely having a theater kid moment analyzing Defoe's mannerisms. It made it 100 times better with the screen time given to Norman. Out of all the villains, he had the most screen time and the best and understandable character motivations. Norman is introduced as a frightened guy who's scared of his other evil persona, and it makes you feel for him a lot more, even if you can expect him to turn back to Goblin again. I felt so bad that even when he killed May, I couldn't hate Goblin for it, knowing that Norman was trapped inside and knowing that Norman would not have done that, especially after May and Peter were so kind to him. I really, like many, loved when Peter in the third act was beating up Goblin and Goblin just smiling through it all. Damn! Just like how I get chills during some performances of Joker, animated or live action, Goblin felt like Joker's equivalent for Marvel to some degree. I'm not saying Goblin and Joker are the same character or exactly the same, but they're both sick and twisted villains just because they like to kill and nothing else. And that was Goblin in this movie. He was straight up a villain, straight up evil, and had no reason for his madness, and I loved it. Defoe's performance was truly elevated from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Next up, we have Peter Parker 3. Oh my god, I absolutely love Andrew Garfield's acting, and he blew me away in this movie. He and Tobey had some more screen time than I thought they would have. I thought they would have came more in the third act as opposed to the second act when they came into the movie. I wish I could see Andrew as Peter again, because those, yes, obviously, as fans, we already know, his movies suck hard. But I think to me, he was the best version of Peter Parker. I don't know, I just liked him a lot better when I was a kid watching his movies. I really like how he got his redemption in this movie, and though that under any other circumstances would have been less impactful than it actually turned out to be, but Garfield really elevated the performance constantly by saving MJ, not with his webs, because, last time when he tried to, save Gwen and then the web. Okay. By saving MJ, not with his webs, but by grabbing her with his arms, by asking her if she was okay while he had tears in his eyes. Oh my god, I cried. Andrew had no issues embodying his mannerisms for when he played this character before, and I felt Tobey was the same. Yes, Peter Parker had his big moments. May dying, him crying on his school's roof, him almost potentially killing Goblin, and obviously him erasing everyone's memory of him. But still, I could not cheer for Andrew's portrayal. The humor he brought, the crackhead energy he gave off, the sad and emotional moments when he talked to Peter on the school roof. Oh, shit. Those were really the best parts of the movie, hand down. We really need another Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, or at least have him play Spider-Man in the MCU with their own version of the Spider-Verse, hopefully in the future. Next, we have MJ and Ned. First up, Ned. I always liked Jacob's portrayal of Ned. His quick one-liners and comedic timing have always been really good. Their believable friendship was always great to watch. I really like this, that he has magic abilities now, because it would give him something even more to do for future movies. And for MJ, she has a bigger role in this movie, and I really liked it a lot compared to the first two. She's not a one-note character anymore, and they gave her more of a personality, more of a character. In this movie, we got even more insight to her background and her life outside of hanging out with Ned and Peter, and I could see MJ and Peter's relationship a little bit more believable and not rushed, if that makes sense. Lastly, The villains. I really like to see the old villains again. This movie truly felt like a true Spider-Man movie with Spider-Man villains. And though I was scared for this movie before it came out because it was very ambitious, and the last time they tried to do so many villains in one movie, it really didn't turn out right. However, I really liked how this movie played out. Probably because many of the villains did take a backseat to Goblin, who was technically the main villain. This was good and bad because Goblin really did deserve the screen time he got. However, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock was great in the beginning, but then after the initial fight scene he had with Spider-Man, he just wasn't really there. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is that he switched sides. And it makes sense because in the end of his movie, he did kind of redeem himself. So it makes sense, like, in this movie, not to have him stay evil for, I guess, quote-unquote, too long. But I don't know, I just wanted to see a little bit more evil Doc Ock before, like, he switched sides. But that was okay. Molina, he had good humor and his acting was great. But like I said, I wish he did fight more, like more fight scenes. Or just did something else more. Jamie Foxx was also really good in this movie. He's different from when he played Electro in Garfield. But honestly, I didn't really mind compared to a lot of other fans. I really did like his comedic timing. Some fans didn't like it. But, it made me laugh. So I didn't really care. And I just like how cool he looks in this movie. My one complaint was his motivation for just literally anything. It just didn't really make sense. But honestly, Sandman and Lizard motivations were a lot worse than Electro's. Sandman wanted to go back to his daughter, understandably. That's like literally his whole character in the movies. But I don't understand why he fought against Peter for that. I understand he didn't really know Tom Holland's Peter and couldn't trust him. But it just didn't really make sense. I wish they kind of explored it a lot more, but honestly, not like Sandman did anything else in this movie, so would they had time to talk about it? Doubt it. And as you know, Lizard was just so bad. Like, he was barely in the movie himself compared to the other villains, or he at least did the least amount compared to the other villains. And honestly, if you could remove Lizard and Sandman and you would still have the same movie. So moving on. The second greatest thing that I really liked about this movie were the fight scenes. Obviously, it's an action movie, it's a superhero movie, it's a Marvel movie, so people are looking at those fight scenes. You gotta keep people engaged. Marvel movies just get better with every fight scene that they do, and I always loved how Spider-Man fought in the comics or just in any animated content. With his webs, he doesn't need to stay grounded, and watching him usefully using his webs and his surroundings to win a fight, especially when he uses more of his mind than strength, like he did in the fight between him and Doctor Strange, was really good to see. The third act was a great fight scene as well. I really liked the individual time given to Toby and Andrew during the fight. Obviously, Peter and Goblin's fight was intense, or I guess Peter's beatdown against Goblin was intense, and I really liked the potential figures of people who could have passed through to Peter's world, like through the little cracks in the multiverse. Like, if you paid attention, you could have seen, like, I don't know, I can't remember from the top of my head, but like Rhino, I saw his little shadow figurine, or Kraven the Hunter was also there because there's a character holding a spear. Typically, third acts of Marvel movies aren't really my favorite, but besides some movies like Endgame, but this fight and the ending entirely really held my attention the whole way through. Now, the third greatest thing I really liked about this movie is the quote-unquote fan service. A lot of people who say a lot of negative things about this movie, like there's a lot of bad reviews anyways, but the ones that are quote-unquote bad reviews and negative reviews for this movie do complain, or their most complain about it. It's the quote-unquote fan service. However, I really did like the quote-unquote fan service, and obviously it was expected based on the trailers that they put out. I really can't understand why people were too mad about it. We weren't really getting out-of-pocket cameos just for the fun of it. Everyone there, whether it was the villains, both Spider-Man, were like integrated into the plot, and they were like important for it. And like I said, watching the movie a second time, you can even pick up more Easter eggs or references you might not have even realized, and it just makes this movie a lot more fun to watch. This movie was for superhero and comic book lovers and people who grew up with the Tobey Maguire movies, or probably grew up with the Andrew Garfield movies. Like, like very much nostalgic tug, if you know what I mean. We got to see insight into Andrew and Toby's life after their respective movies ended. We got to learn a little bit more about the villains. And, you know, it was just all awesome. I don't think complaining about the quote-unquote fan service is enough reason just to hate this movie. Or at least shouldn't be your only reason. Lastly, let's get into some theories I have. Now, I was going to go online to look up a list of theories and just like quickly either agree or debunk some of them. But because I want to get this out as fast as possible, I'm just going to say some of the theories that I have at the top of my head. And if you guys want me to do a whole theory video, I would more than happy do that. So number 1, Venom. Seeing Tom Hardy's Venom in the end credits and him leaving behind a little piece of the Venom symbiote while he got transported back to his world is setting up, obviously, Venom in the future movies. I really wanted Hardy to be in the MCU universe because I just really like how his portrayal is. But maybe there's going to be a version of Hardy's Eddie in this universe, but I do doubt it. So somebody else like Flash or Peter will get affected by the piece of Venom. Flash would be more likely to hold the title since he has in the comics, but I'm not sure how Marvel would set it up because they haven't really been setting up Flash as someone important for these movies. So it's probably going to be someone random that might get attached to the symbiote and then fight Peter in the later movies. Theory 2, Sinister Six. Everyone believed this movie was going to be a Sinister Six movie or set up for one. Obviously it didn't, and I was surprised people even believed that because I just didn't have that thought. Tom Holland's Spider-Man hadn't really fought enough villains to have his own Sinister Six yet, but I think the next movies will hopefully set up more Spider-Man villains, so then Spider-Man's last solo movie would probably be a Sinister Six plot-based movie. Theory 3. Ned will be a villain, ? Ned is loosely based on Ned Leeds, a Daily Bugle co-worker of Peter who becomes the Hobgoblin briefly in the comics before he dies. I don't entirely think he'll become a villain because Ned in these movies and in the comics only just share a name. But whatever storyline for Ned, whether it's to be a future villain or a magic user, I just literally can't wait to see because I want to see more of Ned. Theory 5. Slight introduction of Miles Morales in the end credits of the next movie, and then maybe more of a role in the following movie after that. Then leading to a Spider-Verse movie as the last Spider-Man solo movie, if we don't get a Sinister Six plot. So, since Holland doesn't really want to play Peter Parker or Spider-Man for too long anymore, I think he wants to quit the role or wrap it up as quickly as possible to get onto other things with his life. Maybe Miles would probably be introduced and have a bigger role in the next movie, or just sooner than I think he would have. Along with Miles, I think, and I really hope Daredevil will have a bigger role in the next movie than he did in this one, and I'm hopeful really soon we're going to get an MCU Marvel Daredevil movie. Not anytime soon because Marvel already has their next phases planned out, and I don't think Daredevil is in one of their future slots, but sooner than we all really thought there was going to be another Daredevil in the MCU. Spider-Man No Way Home was a good origin story for Peter Parker. He lives in a crappy apartment now. He has a homemade suit now. He has no Avengers or Tony's help or Tony's tech help. He's just Peter Parker. He has to start over and be responsible for how he uses his powers now, because as we all know, his actions led to every bad thing that happened in the movie. This is a turning point, and I can't wait to see a solo Spider-Man movie in the future, at least just for the next movie. No Avengers or other Marvel leads, just Peter Parker and Spider-Man starting over, fighting alone, similar to how Tobey and Andrew Garfield's movies went in the past. I cannot wait for the next Spider-Man movie. Based on the second ending credit of No Way Home, I can't wait for the Doctor Strange movie, and I just can't wait for future projects as well. Also, if you guys don't know, they're making a Morbius movie over at Sony, in, you know, association with Marvel. So I can't wait for that movie to come out too. If you haven't checked the trailer out, you definitely should. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please let me know your thoughts down below with Spider-Man, and let me know for future superhero content on this channel, because I'm literally on a superhero mood and grind, and I want to do all things superhero comics and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go watch Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters if you can. And Jen and I will see you in the next video. Remember, stay kid at heart, and happy holidays. Peace.